Another beautiful day on the Cocopah West Reservation. Perfect weather to go out with the Yuma Audubon Society and do some bird watching. And joining us is Nancy Meister, who is president of the Yuma chapter. And Nancy, talk about today's event and what birding is all about.
Well, I have been talking with Joe out at the museum, trying to set something up because I think that we're going to have a whole lot more birds out here as more and more restoration is planned for the river. And ultimately, I'm hoping that we can get a group of people here trained in identifying birds, and that we might make something that we call the Christmas bird count in South County, because we're now doing it in North County, but I think we're missing a whole lot of birds. And I would like to identify and document what kind of birds that we have down here in South County.
Okay, and Brandon, this is your first time here. You're with Cocopah. You're a new cultural resources manager.
That is correct.
And what was this experience like for you today?
Overall, very positive. We had a pretty good turnout, it seemed to me, and there were a number of people interested in learning, which kind of birds frequent the West Reservation and how to identify them, which is, like Nancy. Apologies. Nancy was saying it's important to have those kind of trained people to help with citizen science initiatives like this, because the more data we can collect, the more accurate we can be in making assumptions about wildlife populations.
Absolutely. And from a cultural standpoint, as the museum's curator, Ulises, what was this event like for you today?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think that this is a great collaboration because, there's research behind it and identification and all of that, which is amazing. And there's also the aspect of the bringing the culture together, the community. This was an invitation to the Cocopah community members. We started it off that way, and it's also an event that was for the museum. So it's bringing people to the museum, bringing the community and the culture to the museum, and what better way than to do it with nature, which is so connected to the Native American community. This mindfulness walk while bird watching. So there's so many components to the event, and I'm so glad that we had a great turnout. I think that we can even increase it, and because we did a great job this time, but I think that it can even become bigger, with more promotion about it and opening up to more people. So I'm really happy with the result.
Yeah, and Nancy, you've been partnering with Cocopah for many years on restoration projects and now cultural projects. And you mentioned earlier about the bird count. And tell us why having an accurate bird count of the region is critical.
Well, we know from articles that have been written that birds are in decline for a number of reasons, and that we need to bend the curve so that we're starting to see increases in birds. We think certainly changes in climate and changes in ranges of birds is happening right now. So if we document what's here and things get worse, we'll be able. The birds are like the canary in the mine. They used to do that. So if we need to look at what's happening to the birds, which will give us some idea of what's happening with the climate. I just think that documentation is so important in our and we're as citizen sciences, we're not ornithologists, we're just looking at birds and identifying them, and then we can record it in an app called eBird, and people can look at it and use that information.
And we've been seeing a lot of extreme weather lately. It just seems to be becoming more and more extreme. And Brandon, how does this impact what you do and your mission as our cultural resources manager?
It's a good question. A number of ways. So first off, I have an archaeological background. It's what my degrees are in, and that is primarily what I do here at Cocopah is handle Section 106 consultation. So when federal agencies are doing a project, they will consult under the National Historic Preservation Act with our office, and particularly regarding what are cultural resources, which generally the federal agencies and state agencies have a very narrow view of what that means. To them, that is mostly just archaeological things, sites, isolated occurrences, artifacts on the ground. But that isn't necessarily the indigenous perspective. To a lot of people with a traditional indigenous worldview, there is no inherent difference between lithic debitage from the creation of stone tools and plants that grow along the river. Everything is part of an interconnected whole, and you can't really parcel it out into separate areas. So something that they struggle to grasp sometime at the agency level is that it is of immense interest to the Cocopah and other tribal nations that environments remain intact. Wildlife populations remain healthy. Climate issues are, mitigated, that we're not contributing to climate change, which will ultimately have detrimental effects on everything in the natural environment, us included, because humans are part of the environment, and it's an arbitrary distinction to say this is cultural and this is natural. Like that doesn't really exist. So yeah, from a cultural perspective, bird populations are critical. Changing climate is critical, and that's not just something that is consigned to the realm of biologists, but it affects everybody, and it's going to affect everyone in the world. So.
And amongst the three of you, we're at the intersection of culture, of the environment, and of history. And just amongst the three of you, those things all intersect. And what has been your experience? Do you feel that more people are more aware and in tune with what we're talking about here? Is that what you're sensing based on your jobs?
Well, I think that's why we're creating events like this, and doing our best to put the information out there, inviting the people, educating, promoting. And that's another point that I was gonna say as well, that this is like a great gateway in a way to what's coming next. There's Earth Day coming up. We did all of this, which is nature-based. We are nature. We need all of these components. All of them are important. And it was a beautiful event that is also leading to the Earth Day Festival, not this Saturday, but the next. So there's a lot going on that I think it's at least planting the seed of awareness. And for those who are ready, that will grow, and we're doing our best to advocate and to promote, to educate, to have the numbers, the research, and the community.
One of the things that I've learned, because there are scientific names for these birds. I only use common names for these birds, but there are also Cocopah names for these birds. There are Spanish names for these birds, and it's kind of neat to exchange that information. And just talking to Joe, he's part of the Coot clan, so that was interesting too. That they and he also told me about the bad omen that that's part of their culture, and I shouldn't talk about owls because that's a bad omen for
a certain bird.
For the Cocopah. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of exchange of information that way that is enhanced my knowledge as well as helping people know.
Joe being the manager of the museum.
Yeah.
He's not here, but he's always present.
And Brandon, what are your thoughts?
Kind of going along with that, it's so a lot of especially with the executive order that was signed during the last year of the Biden presidency, ordering agencies to prioritize indigenous knowledge. I mean, yeah, people who have lived in this area for thousands and thousands of years, they have just a wealth of observational knowledge about flora, fauna, climate, what have you. That's really not something that, you know, people can replicate. Even if you are a trained ornithologist, there will always be something that has just been observed and passed down that is not evident immediately if you know, don't have that background. So that's why collaboration with between, you know, scientists of the natural and cultural worlds and indigenous nations is critical.
Absolutely, a lot to learn there.
Yeah.
And if you enjoy these podcasts, you can find us at cocopah.com. You can also sign up for our free monthly electronic newsletter. We promise not to share your contact information with any third parties. You can also find us on SoundCloud, Stitcher, and YouTube. Our news brand is Cocopah Now. Thank you for joining us.